Hello, and welcome to this edition of the Angels and Destiny show. Why is this show called this, you may ask? So I'll tell you. The accepted meaning of angel is messenger, and the accepted meaning of destiny is to make firm establish. So my guest and I bring you messages to establish what you need to know in the present. And of course, as you know, I love working with angels and the calmness they bring. Now, in a moment, I want to introduce you to my wonderful guest, Lana McAra. But before that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching the show live at a later date, as it means a lot to both of us to connect with like-minded people. Now, if you've never met me before, then my name is Rae, and I'm the founder of Radiant Angel Energy. And I'm a guide who helps you remember your divine presence so that you can heal your past, create your future, and transform your present to expand your consciousness, understand your spiritual path, get clarity on your next steps, and take charge of your destiny so that you can fulfill your purpose in this lifetime. Now, each episode of this show covers various themes of your journey, a mini guided meditation, and our angel oracle card reading with the wisdom of my wonderful guests, like today's returning guest, Lana McAra, about spiritual lessons in story form. Now, Lana is a spiritual luminary and energy healer. She is an award-winning international best-selling author and ghostwriter of 44 titles through traditional publishing with 1 million books sold, many under the name of Rosie Dow. Her speciality is teaching aspiring novelists how to embed spiritual lessons and life experiences into a strong novel. She has been teaching aspiring novelists how to write fiction for 20 years. Now, Lana has just created a new paranormal cozy mystery series called The Englewood Medium. And the first book, Shaken But Not Stirred, is about to be published soon. And I've had the great pleasure of actually reading it. And I can say I read it in one sitting and I didn't guess who did it in the end. So, it's a good book. Now, with testimonials such as, I say this without hesitation, I'm a better writer thanks to Laura. She is a consummate professional and a pleasure to work with. A book contract was in the works within a couple of weeks after submission to a publisher. Lana played a big part in that remarkable accomplishment. And one of the best decisions I've ever made for my writing career was to sign up for Rosie Dow's wonderful fiction writing course. You might know her as Lana McAra. When I first signed up for the course, I only had a draft of a novel I'd written about 20 years earlier and gave up on. Today, I have 7 published novels, including the one I gave up on, and I'm working on the 8th. I would highly recommend Lana's writing course. So without further delay, hello, Lana, and welcome to the Angels and Destiny show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Rae. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you back. So before we get into this fascinating conversation, I want to remind you that not only can you share this video, but you can also ask questions, leave comments and thoughts, as both Lana and I want to be part of this conversation. So please don't be shy. And we've really got Graham here. Hi, Graham. Great to see you here today. So, Lana, why don't you tell us more about your journey and about how and why spiritual lessons are important in story form?
We have spiritual lessons in story form all the time and we don't realize it. A lot of times, the movies that we watch, the ones that resonate with us, they've got some theme in there that is very powerful. So, what I teach my students is to find the life lessons in their own life because I think we forget ourselves. We have so much experience. We have so many things that we learn along the way, those spiritual aha moments to draw from. And we just seem to forget that our lives are full of wonderful stories and wonderful lessons for the stories. So, taking your own experience and then putting it into a fiction story with different characters, different setting, different situations, but the seed idea is there. And then when you do that, your book feels real. It feels like it's truth because it is based in fact. It's based in your experience. And so that is so much more powerful than just trying to grab a firefly out of the air and create a book out of it. You're getting it from here, which is amazing for connection to other people.
Yeah, no, that's so important. So how did you get onto the idea of, because obviously you've been writing for a very long time. So were your original books, did they contain any sort of like spiritual stuff, or is it just recently that that's sort of like come in?
It was in the beginning. My first book was called Megan's Choice, and it was about a girl whose parents had died. Both parents had died, and she was left to care for her little brother. And so, in my own experience, my parents divorced, and my father left us. I never saw him again for 30 years. And my mother was in a relationship with a man who was very violent and really crazy. I mean, he was actually in the mental hospital at times. So, to me, putting the story about a girl whose parents had abandoned her matched my situation, but it was a different twist on it so that it was fiction, but the emotion of it was gripping because it happened to me. So that was the way I started my writing career, but I didn't really know what I was doing yet. I just had a good idea, and I ran with it. So later on, it came to me that the books that I had like a personal stake in, they were the ones that did the best. And so I started to incorporate that into my teaching of fiction teaching.
Wow, I suppose we kind of like all know that in the back of our heads that really we should be, calling on our life, but you kind of like think actually my life's quite boring. Have I actually got anything around me that I can actually use as a story?
Yes, and that's something that I find my students asking too. And so what I tell them is to think back through your life, and there are before and after moments. That's what I call them, before and after moments. Incidents that happen. And when they happen, my life will never be the same. It could be the death of someone close to you. It could be a new job in another city, then you move. Or it could be anything that changed your life forever, before and after moments. And so then what I have my students do is just make a list of those. And then as you look down through the list, you are looking for the ones that are universal. Everybody experiences them. They're relatable. We kind of know what that is. We kind of know what that's like. And then emotional. So if it has those three qualifications, you can use it as the foundation of a novel. That's
Okay,
what it takes.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, yeah, no, I like that. So. But I suppose the question is, why did you write your first book? What,
I
what,
was
what, what gave you the idea?
I the idea of writing a book came to me after looking at a magazine ad. I was 24 years old. I had two small children at the time, and I saw a magazine ad for a writer's course, and I thought, well, I can do that while I stay at home, with the children. But the actual idea for the book came because my mother had some young friends that were in college, and they married different people. So there was a couple from France who had come to the US on a college visa, and they wanted to stay in the US. And in order to do that, they would need to marry an American, but they were together. And so they asked this couple if the man would marry the girl, and the girl would marry the French man, and then they would have two marriages, and then they could both, the two people could stay in the US. And so they did. They married them legally, but then they never, they went home. They didn't live
Yeah,
with them or anything. But what happened was, after graduation, the French couple split up. They broke up. and they moved to different places. And the American couple couldn't get married to each other because they were married to these people.
Oh,
It took them between 5 and 10 years. They found one of them, and then they had broken up, so they didn't know where the other one was, and they hired private detectives. They did all kinds of things to find the other person, and eventually they did marry. But to me, that was a fascinating story, that you would marry someone not even planning to live with them or be with them. Yeah. So that was kind of the real life idea that I based my novel on. If you looked at it, you would never recognize that in the book.
no, well, I suppose you kind of like did have to change things in there. So it's kind of like an idea, and then just changing the idea slightly. I mean, because we all know that, they say, you change names of characters, but you're actually change some of the story around, so it's not exactly the same.
Yes, you hide the original idea completely. In the book, in the Englewood medium that you mentioned before, that seed thought of that story came because I had a stalker in 2014, and I went through the whole stalking situation with the police and all of that. And so I took that idea. Now I knew who my stalker was. It was a boyfriend I broke up with, and he became very enraged that I broke up with him and did all those things. But in my fiction story, the woman doesn't know who the stalker is. This person
No.
is making her life misery, and she has no idea who would do this, who would do this. So that was one difference. And then another difference was that she had a business and she thought it was related to her business. And so then you have that trail of all the different people involved in her business who could do that to her and so forth. Now, that's just one facet of the book. There's a murder mystery, there's a romance, and those are separate stories that, they converge together. But I just took the stalker piece for the one section, and I made it completely different than it would be, a romantic relationship that broke up. Doesn't have really anything to do with that.
Yeah. No, it doesn't, and it's not a heavy book or anything. Like it is a cozy mystery, and with some funny moments in, and lots of different twists and turns. You will not guess the ending, trust me. I'm pretty good at these things, and I didn't get it at all. So you definitely won't get there. So the spiritual side of it, because obviously it's about mediums. That's the Englewood medium. So where does the mediumship come from in there?
I actually had that situation happen to me. I was moving into a new apartment. I was putting a curtain rod up, and I got all the screws into the wall except for one. And when I had my screwdriver up there, and it was electric screwdriver, and I was really trying to get that last screw in, and it hit something. It hit something, and it was just spinning. It wasn't going in. And I was really frustrated because I needed to get this particular one in. It wasn't going to be attached properly. And I'm thinking to myself, why, what if I actually have to call a handyman to come and put in one screw? No, no, I'm not going to do it. And suddenly I felt my father's energy just come around me. It was a warm energy. Now, remember, I hadn't seen my father for 30 years after the divorce, right? So my parents divorced, and I had had a little contact with him after just before he died, within a couple of years before he died. And so I felt my father's energy, which I had never felt before since he passed. And all of a sudden, I felt strength in my shoulder, and the screw just went right in. And I was like, whoa, I, I came down off the ladder. I'm like, oh my gosh. Now in the book, she sees her father, but I didn't see him. I just sensed his energy. And, even now, if I'm doing some kind of like a little mechanical project and I can't get it, I'm like, okay, Dad, come on. And it does help. Yeah.
So have you, you know, because obviously our characters in books are kind of like normally based on people you know. So I'm taking all the different, most of the different characters in in the book, you know, the mediums and the yoga and everything. I'm guessing they're based on real people.
A couple of them are. Frankie, the girl from from Haiti, she's based on someone who came to an event that I hosted at my house. It was a kind of a meetup teaching thing, and I never saw her again. She came one time, but she was so beautiful, and she has so much wonderful energy. She just like a goddess, you know. She just came in and she sat there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who is that, you know? And I never forgot her. I never forgot her, and so I created that character after her, and she's going to be really prominent in the next book. I couldn't wait to get her back because I just love that character. So that was one person that was based on real, but then there are others that, you know, I just made up.
Yeah, but I'm guessing because of the sort of like spiritual nature of it, it's kind of like things you know about. So I'm taking it there's quite a lot of spiritual stuff that goes on in your life that you're aware of, to be able to bring that into the book.
Yes, exactly. Because I had that medium experience, and then I do channel. I do have people visit me, you know, who have crossed and that kind of thing, and looked at, you know, card reading, and all the things that the various people in the meditation group do. I've had experience with all of them. So this woman, the Englewood medium, is the main character, and she is exploring her spirituality through this story. And as the stories go on in the series, and she's going to be growing and expanding, and so she is sort of a type of the reader, like, you know, if the reader is exploring spirituality to learn about things and grow, as the main character does also.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Graham has said, send him here. I have a few screws to place. Mediumship is awesome, and Graham is a medium himself, so it's great. He says, and fulcrums to steer you on your path journey,
Yes.
and that. So, is it because of all these experiences you had that you kind of like came up with the idea of including spiritual lessons with writing a novel, or did it come from sort of like the people you've been taking through writing courses over the years? You know, what was the inspiration with the inspiration to include spiritual lessons, and why spiritual lessons are so important to be in a book when you're writing your story?
Well, there's a couple of there's two different parts to that answer. One of them is that this book is my kind of coming out as a spiritual person involved in metaphysics, not just a spiritual person who knows some stuff, you know. This is the first time I've actually put it in public that this is what I do, because I teach fiction. I'm, you know, I'm out in the business world, and I kind of keep my spiritual life separate from but this is me. This is the me that's been going on now for 10 years or so.
So basically, you're stepping out of the spiritual closet now.
Yes.
About
Exactly.
time.
I know. It is about time for sure. Yeah. The second piece of it is that as I have gone through my expansion journey, there's so many aha moments and so many wonderful truths that have come through that, you know, I have a journal and I write them down. So when I get to the storyline, you know, I'm like, which truth do I want to portray here? Because if you think back to stories in the past that have made such an impact with different truths, because it is a story. And so one One thing that happens in the story format is when we read a story, a fiction book, we are absorbing the information on a subconscious level, not just a conscious level. And so the story and the connection to the characters and the fact that we care what happens brings the message into us. It's not a mental exercise anymore. It's more of a heart knowing. And so that's why I am so thrilled to write fiction. I feel like it has the opportunity to reach people at this deeper level than just writing a nonfiction book that's going to stimulate them mentally, but not really change them inside. And so that's my purpose and my mission with my writing is to insert these truths in a way that will help people to understand and expand as they read and as they're entertained.
Yeah. And yeah, and the book does, the Englewood medium does kind of like do that on that level. And Graham says that, yeah, that's a tough balancing role, business and the spiritual side. It's a hard one for some people to actually balance. And of course, as people know, I'm all for speaking your spiritual truth and being out there and not hiding it and coming out of the spiritual closets. When people say they're doing it, I'm like, yes, finally. They're doing it. They're doing what they're supposed to do, because every single one of us really is here to walk a spiritual path. It's just that we sometimes we either don't remember, or we just hide it because we're so frightened of what the outside world is going to say, because obviously hundreds of years of persecutions and the modern life just being so fast, and things having to be so practical and doing this that I know that it's hard for a lot of people to actually to actually take on and say, okay, yeah, I am a spiritual person.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And the technique of doing it is to embed the message into the main character's psychology, or what I call psychic wounds, where they have pain from their past. And then you come through with these different truths through the story where they're learning and growing. And so it's not a moralistic kind of thing pasted on, it's intrinsic. It's intrinsic from the heart of the person and their past experience, and then their ability to move forward through their challenge based on the events of the story. And this is all really heavy. This is heavy talk, kind of like literature, literature class. But the story is light. It's light. It's fun. It moves. It flows. It doesn't get stuck. And that's what I teach my students. You have to write the story. The story is the star. And these other pieces, we slip them in. We're sneaky about it. Yeah, we hide that in the middle.
Yeah, I know that's that that is so fascinating to to hear this, and sort of like the explanation. And Graham says, I thought Lana said screws in place of truths, and it reminded me of one needing just one screw to fill a moment. Without that final screw, now things don't get completed.
That's such a great analogy. Wow, thank you so much.
That's really, you might be able to use it in a book somewhere. You never know.
You never know.
You never know about that. So obviously you've said, if someone is looking at writing in the book, is obviously to write down their think back and write down the big moments in their life, or things that have been significant for them. And then I suppose the next thing from that would be to discern which ones resonate more, or more congruent with what's going on in the world at that particular particular time? I mean, does it have to be relevant to what's going on, or does it not need to be relevant?
It needs to be the story that needs to be told now. And so when you're looking down your list of 10 things, a couple of them will pop out, and then you'll take your short list of 2 or 3, and then you'll look at those. And there are some criteria. One of them is, do I want to talk about this topic forever? If you write a book with that in it, you may have interviews, for the rest of your life about it. So is this something that I want to talk about? It took me 5 years to talk about my stalker story. It scared me so bad. My blood pressure went up and stayed up for 5 years after that. And so I had to work through those things myself. I couldn't do it before. I was too, it would re-traumatize me again. So I had to wait. So if that was in my list of 10, I would have looked at that and said, no, that one, I need to wait until I'm ready. Another one is it fun for me? Can I go there? Can I really develop this? Can I live with this idea for the next 2 or 3 years, as I write this story? And then is it compelling? Like I want to do this one. This one excites me. This one fires me up. And so with those different criteria, usually one will pop out like, okay, this is the one. This is the one I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Now, anyone who's watching either live or on the replay, if you've got any questions you want to ask about writing the book, then please do write them in there. Even if you're watching the replay, Lana and I will be glancing back to see if anyone's asked any questions about writing a book in there. So, I mean, I'm guessing there are so many different ways of writing a book, whether that's handwriting it, typing it. But how would you actually get it started? Because you might have you've done your list, and you've gone, that I really want to talk. I really want to talk about that idea. I've got so much information about it. But I've got so much information. Where on earth do I start?
Yes, exactly. So you take your before and after moment, and from that you create a theme statement for trying to think. For my first book, Megan's Choice, the theme was even though you might feel abandoned, God is always there. And so she went to all these different lengths, and she faced all these different obstacles, and she came through them. And at the end, she could look back and say, God was there. This happened and that happened, and it always came through, and so forth. And so that was where my spiritual journey was at the time. I would put it in different terms now, but that was the theme of the story. So when you have your theme, then you will begin to think about who's going to tell the story. Who are the characters that are going to tell the story? Do you want them to be male or female? Do you want them to be in what location? And just allow that to percolate. Now, for me, as a professional writer, now for almost 30 years, I have a big notebook full of ideas, and I turn it's actually a physical 3-ring binder. And I turn the pages. I'm like, who's going to tell the story? I've got characters there, and I've got ideas about stories and different ideas. And I'll look through that big fat journal and find something that appeals to me. And then I see how can I develop it around that particular story idea. So I took my stalker. I took my the Englewood medium. Sorry, I got other titles coming up to my mind. I have 44, and sometimes I just okay,
Wow.
which one was that? So to realize what would be the character's situation, and for the Englewood medium, I took the stalker, and then I took my spiritual growth story. And so now we have a woman. I wanted it to be a woman with a stalker who's in the spiritual growth. So what could that look like? And so then I remembered spiritual growth relating to my father showing up in my living room. Oh, that would be a great idea for a beginning, of the story. And so that was the opener. I mean, I just pull from my life. I pull from my life, but I always change it. Now in the Englewood medium, that situation with the curtain rod was almost word for word exact what happened to me. It was too good, and it was just a little
Yeah.
piece. It wasn't a big part of the story. It's just a little moment.
Yeah. It's
Except
a good
she
bit,
saw
good
her
bit of the
father.
story though.
I didn't see my father. And he is a funny, engaging person. He's a nice person to have around. He's not one of the spooky ghost characters.
I take it he's going to be in the other books as well.
Oh yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
good. Yeah. Yeah, the little glimpses you got of him, I'm like, I like him. As you can tell, I'm going to be looking out for the other books when they come out. So Graham says, how would you get it out there? And I suppose that's another thing that people worry about. They go like, well, yeah, I've got this book, I've written this book, but I'm well-known publishers aren't going to use me and trying to publish myself. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yes, getting the book out there and getting it published is definitely a challenge, and it is even a challenge for me, because to get into the big 5 New York publishers, that is a fantasy, because now those big 5 publishers, they only want celebrities. Unless you're a political figure, you're a movie star, a sports star, or you're on television, with a show, you're not even going to get in there. They want X number of thousands or millions of followers on YouTube and Facebook and so forth. They've got all these massive criteria that comes from people who actually have a brand, and a company supporting the brand and all that kind of stuff. The regular people like us, that we don't even get into that, elevated cloud in the sky type of position. So then you have your traditional publishers that are like mid-level, smaller presses that do traditional. And the only difference between a traditional publisher and a hybrid publisher, and I'll explain the hybrid in a moment, is an advance. Traditional publishers give you money first. When you sign a contract, you get money. They'll write you a check. A hybrid publisher does the same thing as a mid-list traditional publisher, exactly the same. The quality of the book is the same. The distribution is the same. The marketing is, well, the hybrid publishers do better marketing than the traditional ones. But the hybrid publisher wants money. The traditional publisher gives you money. The hybrid publisher wants money. Now, they don't want a ton of money. They just want a little money. They will want between $3,000 and $6,000. And that covers their cover art, the layout, the marketing, all the different expenses of production. They want you to help them cover production. And then you get royalties, just like a traditional, but you get more. A traditional publisher might pay you 15% royalties. The hybrid publisher will pay you 25 to 35% royalties. And the traditional publisher holds back money. So when you get royalties, say you sold 5,000 copies, and your royalty check should be $5,000. You're getting $1 a book. The traditional publisher will hold back 35%. They won't give you all the money. They're going to hold back 35% because they say some of those bookstores are going to return some copies. So we need to have money in case they return copies. So we're going to hold that money. And in all my years of publishing with multiple publishers, I've never seen that money back. I don't know what they do with it, but it isn't coming to me. The hybrid publisher doesn't hold anything for returns. So I actually have turned to the hybrids And I had a book released in June that was with Morgan James Publishing. The book that's coming out in November in like 5 days is with Olympia Press, which is another hybrid. And then I'm signing a contract this week for a third book with a third publisher, another hybrid that is giving me 90% royalties. 90%. So this is a great advance in this century. Before, you had no other choices. Then we went to either traditional or Amazon.
Yeah.
And now this third group has come forward, and I am so excited about that. Now, the reason I haven't gone with either of the other two is that Morgan James is a Christian publisher, and the book I had put out in June is a reprint from my Christian days. They did not accept, they rejected the Englewood medium. They didn't want a ghost.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, if you don't want the ghost, fine, I'll find somebody else, which I did. And then there's Olympia, which has been fine. And then I found this other publisher through a recommendation from another author. And I thought, well, I'll just try, I'll just see if they want this romantic thriller that I have the manuscript for. And they took it. And then I got the contract and went, oh my God, 90%? I've never heard of that before. So yeah, that was awesome. That's Atmosphere
Yeah.
Publishing.
And I suppose also the difference is if you've kind of like got a traditional publisher, you're kind of like in a way tied to them, where
Yes,
with the hybrids, you're not as tied.
correct. The traditional publisher owns 100% of your rights. They own your rights. They own your book. The hybrid publisher, you keep all your rights. You don't have to ask them for them back. They're your rights. That's another huge thing because I had 15 books, I guess, that were out of print, and I couldn't get my rights back. They were just like, belly up, a fish belly up in the water because they were out of print and I couldn't get them, back. And the publisher just gave me my rights back to those books. So I've got those books back now. And so look out next year. You're going to be seeing some stuff. You're going to be going like, again?
Question is though, do you look back at those books and think, actually, there's changes I want to make, and would you make changes to them?
Absolutely. There will be definitely changes. Those are for my Christian days. And so, yes, they're going to be absolutely changes and new titles and so forth. But just to have my work, at my disposal again is so exciting to me. Just so great. So yes, this is a wonderful time to get published. And so what I did was I just went into Google, just like anybody else. I just went into Google and I put in publishers without an agent, publishers accepting submissions without an agent. And I came up with this long list. And so I just started doing research. I just went in and started looking them over. What type of books do they accept? And looking at the lists that they have of the books they've published and that kind of thing. I just did my research. I selected 3 or 4, made a list, put them on a spreadsheet, and then I started submitting to the different ones. And I started to see what was coming back to me. And that's how I did it. It was not, like a big secret. There still are publishers that accept books, manuscripts without an agent. Agents are very difficult to get anymore. And so the same thing. And also the other piece of it is time. Time. You have to submit to the agent, wait for them to accept the book. Then you have to wait for the agent to submit to the publisher and wait for them to accept the book. And once you get a contract, then you start production, another 8 months, a year. We're talking 2 years usually. But when you can submit directly yourself, you're cutting out like half the time to getting the book out there. So there's that piece as well.
Yeah, brilliant. And that answered Graham's question, who said, there's a few research, and then he said, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Thank you. Thank you very much for how to do that. And he loves your positivity.
Oh, thank you.
So, as you know, I do guided meditations, angel oracle card readings, and each week I like to ask my guests what they would like me to do for themselves and those watching. So, Lana, would you like me to pull an angel oracle card for yourself and those watching, or would you want me to do a mini guided meditation?
Let's pull a card. Yeah, I think I'm good.
They're right in my hand. Amazing. Can't think why. So, as everyone knows, when I do the cards for what you need to know for your highest good at this moment in time. Because even though I work with past life stuff, when I take people back to the past, it's so they can heal and understand their past so it doesn't affect them in the present. And when I take people to the future, it's so they can see where they're going, get the steps to take, and then I bring them back to the present. So everything I do is always for the present. So what does Lana and everyone who's watching this live on the replay need to know for their highest good at this moment in time? So whoever sees this, whenever they see it, this card will be for them because they're meant to see it at that particular time. Okay, so see, what card did we get? Beautiful. So we have got choosing your path. All is possible.
I love it.
Isn't that absolutely perfect? I mean, one, it ties in with what we've been talking about, and it's so much confirmation for you as well, that all is possible now. You know, whichever path you choose, it's going to work out for you, which is absolutely amazing card to have. And again, for everyone who's watching, don't worry about what path you're taking, as long as you're taking that path that's going to light you up and make you happy and bring you joy. It's not a wrong path, at all. Yeah, all is possible. Amazing card to actually come out. In fact, even Graham said, wow. Assuming that was for the card. I like to think it was for actually for the card. So, Lana, do you have any insights or thoughts or last words of wisdom to leave our viewers?
What's coming to me now is to just encourage everyone. If you have a book in you and you keep thinking about it, and sometimes you might like to turn away from it, but it comes back and it just keeps staying with you, just honor that. You're not making it up. You're not imagining things, and you're not living in a fairy world or fantasy world. That is real. And so take that seriously. When you have an idea and it keeps coming back, then follow that. Follow that. Move forward with that. Embrace it. That's what happened to me, and it took me 14 years to get my first book published. And it got to the point where I stopped telling friends and family because, 10 years has gone by and I still haven't been published, and eventually I was just like, I'm just going to quit talking about it. And now 44 books, that is a miracle. That is just a plain miracle from where I came from. But that was in my heart and I kept following it. I wasn't making it up, and you're not making it up either. Honor
Yeah,
yourself. Yes. And
yeah,
do it.
beautifully said. And Graham says, sticking to the truth is always worth sharing in any form.
Yes.
And it's like I always say to people, be curious and enjoy the magic of creation. Children are curious and they make up stories all the time. So I hope everyone that you enjoyed this conversation found it insightful, because I know I definitely have, and with all the ideas going on in my head, it's like, ooh, okay, really do need to get my arse in gear and get that book written. So Lana, if people want to connect with you, how do they do that?
You can go on Instagram. My name on Instagram is Lana McAra and the number 2. And then you can go to my website, and there's contact information on my website, several different ways to get a hold of me there. LanaMcAra.com is my website.
Yeah, and what I will do is I will put those links into the comments after the show, so that anyone can just go and click on them. And Graham says, I'm very curious and nosy. Yes, we know, but we won't say a word about that one. So now, if you are ready to remember your divine presence and step onto your spiritual multidimensional path, perhaps you feel lost, confused, stuck, or alone, then please feel free to reach out and connect with me, and we can see where you are now and how you can move forward to actually take charge of your destiny so that you can spread your wings and soar. And of course, you can receive a free future life regression recording to discover your destiny by seeing into the future to get guidance and clarity that you can use in your current life, as well as a couple of other free gifts by signing up to my email list. And just to make you aware, if you're watching this before the 4th of December, that my Angel Wings membership group is now open for new members. So if you want to come out of your spiritual closet and actually enjoy creating life on your terms, being in the community and learning to develop your skills with intuition and so much more, then check out the link that's going to be in the comments. And again, thank you everyone so much for watching. And I'd love to invite you to share this video, as I'm sure there are more people who feel lost and want to get clear on their destiny, just like you, and have got that book inside them. And of course, if you're watching this on YouTube, then please feel free to subscribe and hit the bell button to be notified when the show goes live, or I post new guided meditations. And do follow Lana as well, because every time someone follows us on any platform, comments, shares, it really helps with the algorithms, and actually helps get our message out there so we can actually be of service and help more people. So, don't be shy on doing that. And again, thank you so much, Lana, for being on the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and Graham for being brave enough to leave comments, etc. And I look forward to you all joining me same time, same place next week. Take care. Bye.